Well, the Altona oil refinery in Melbourne is set to close, putting 300 jobs at risk and sparking fresh concerns about Australia's domestic fuel security. Operator of the facility, ExxonMobil, says the Altona plant, which produces half of Victoria's refined fuel needs, will be converted to a fuel import terminal after the company deemed the refining operation was no longer economically viable. It's really interesting. This is a big story. To discuss it now, I'm joined by my Wednesday economics panel from Melbourne, Herald and Weekly Times columnist Terry McCran, and from Sydney, economics editor at the Australian newspaper, Adam Creighton. Terry, I'm going to start with you. Energy Minister Angus Taylor says it's extremely disappointing. Of course, that's what they always say. It wasn't that long ago, late last year, the federal government allocated $80 million in the budget to help keep these domestic refineries open. Now, it's bad on jobs that it's closing. I think it's really bad in terms of national security, in terms of having a domestic refining capability. And I also want to know, as a taxpayer, what happened to the $80 million they got not so long ago, or the industry, to keep the doors open?
Well, we've been through this game before, Peter. Look at all the money that was handed out to the car industry through the 90s, 2000s and into the 2010s, much bigger sums. Fundamentally, though, $80 million really doesn't cut it as a bribe in terms of an overall policy which says we really don't want you here. We don't want oil industry, an oil industry based in Australia. We don't want to use oil in Australia, and that's coming now from both sides of politics. And we really don't care. In the short run, we'll say we'll bring it in from Singapore. In the long run, we'll say we'll all be driving electric cars, which will be plugged into, I don't know, solar panels or wind turbines somewhere. So bottom line is this was inevitable given the overall policy mix that we have in the country. And I'd have to say the terminal itself, I think, is no great loss in terms of closure. But like an old coal-fired power station, it needed to be replaced by a new modern terminal, probably located outside the metropolitan area.
And 90% now of our liquid fuels are imported. We just had a talk at the top of the show with Paul Kelly about the risks in our region, you know, China muscling up to Taiwan. We're focused, honestly, so much in 2050 and environmental issues, and we're forgetting, I think, the here and now. And this isn't about fuel supply. This isn't about sort of green policy. This is about national security.
Yeah, look, I think that's right. Look, the coalition government federally, as we know, has made some moves to shore up that supply, but to some extent, I don't see how the government can really stop these facilities, you know, closing down. I mean, they essentially have a policy of deindustrialisation because of the rising energy prices, because of the electric car phenomenon that Terry just referred to, and also, you know, the state border restrictions, for example, have put a massive crimp on jet fuel demand, which, of course, going forward is, you know, would have been a factor in the consideration of these oil giants when they close these plants down.
You're absolutely right, Ez. You're absolutely right. I want to go to this gig economy IR speech. It's out tonight in Brisbane by the opposition leader. It's all about his industrial relations agenda, we're told, leading to where they're going to head for the next election. Casual worker tests, more leave entitlements carried over from one job to another by casuals. Terry, how much of this do you think is actually about protecting the rights of Uber drivers and others, getting them on perhaps as card-carrying union members, or is it that you've got a leader now under a bit of pressure and Anthony Albanese is buying himself a lot of factional support from players in the unions, notwithstanding other things he's going to say tonight? He's going to talk about the building industry. Is this a bribe to the CFMEU?
Well, I think at bottom line, it's absolute stupidity, but all of the above, Peter, that you mentioned, the last thing that we want to do to the gig economy, which thrives on being free and not being run by bureaucrats, not operating 9 to 5, not abiding by restrictions on how much you can pay people, where you can pay them and by what manner you can pay them. And here's Anthony Albanese really saying the future for the gig economy lies in 1950s style labour regulation. It's just insane on its merits, which are non-existent. But what is it about Anthony Albanese that he chooses Brisbane to basically announce that he wants to lose the next election? Because there's no way somebody in the gig economy wants to be promised a 40-hour week with union protections. They want to invent the next Amazon. They want to invent the next Apple. And none of that comes out of the union movement.
Yeah, but we always get this sense, don't we, Adam, you know, when a Labor leader's got his back to the wall, it's break glass, hit the IR button, run a scare campaign, fire up the unions, you know, get people worried they're going to lose their jobs. Part of his speech tonight is a scrapping of the ABCC and the Registered Organisations Commission. People will know that at home. This is something that's been legislated to deal with lawlessness on building sites. What's your thoughts, Adam?
Well, certainly on the overall policy, I think it's crazy. I mean, the reality is that Labor's, you know, wants to declare war on the casual side of the labour force, which is about 20% of workers, I understand, and that fraction hasn't really changed for a very long time. For all the talk of casualisation and the gig economy, and the fact is that most casual workers actually enjoy their job or are happy with their conditions just as much as full-time workers. The Melbourne Institute has done lots of research on that. Certainly in my own experience, I can remember, I mean, I worked as a casual for Woolworths many years ago for 6 years, and I far preferred being a casual than being permanent part-time because of the 25% loading. So certainly for lots of people, especially when they're young, the option of casual work is a great one, and I really don't understand why Labor is so intent on crushing it, at least in a public policy sense. Of course, we know politically why, and that is because most casuals are not members of unions.
You're absolutely right. I want to go to this issue in relation to Crown Casino, the private company, James Packer's private company, Consolidated Press Holdings. Full disclosure, I worked for CPH at one time before I started here at Sky. They're severing some of their ties to Crown Resorts after this report out of New South Wales, Liquor and Gaming, recommending that Crown not be handed a licence to operate the Barangaroo Casino. Terry, you say that James Packer's dream to build the world's biggest casino group is now dead, buried and cremated today. What's going to happen now? What happens to Crown Perth and Crown Melbourne?
Well, the fascinating thing about all this, Peter, is this is an inquiry into whether Crown should have a casino licence in New South Wales, Barangaroo as we know, but it's all about what it was been doing in Melbourne through the existing Crown Casino on South Bank. So we've got this bizarre situation where the New South Wales structure is investigating the appropriateness of Crown, and it's all about what it's been doing in Melbourne, and it's come up with a very negative response. The bottom line is that there's no way that James Packer can continue to be a major shareholder. He certainly can't be involved in running the casino as he was doing for so many years. The other side of the coin, though, is that Crown can come back, and it can come back very specifically under Helen Coonan, the new chairman, former minister. I think you previously had some sort of close relationship with her, Peter.
I was her chief of staff at one time, yes.
Exactly, so you'll know very well. But the report was very complimentary to Helen Coonan, both as a witness and as the person who, as chairman of Crown, can remake the board without those Packer people and some others, and can remake the casino structure so that it operates ethically, suitably, doesn't engage in facilitating money laundering, and it can actually be a valid owner both of the Sydney Casino, the Melbourne Casino and the Perth Casino.
It's worth pointing out just
I'll leave it there. I've run out of...
Sorry, you're right.
Sorry, Adam, just here, please.
Just very briefly, the share price of Crown is actually higher than it was a week ago. So the release of the report, doesn't seem to have dented the prospects for its profitability anyway.
Yeah, because it's reality as opposed to speculation. I will make the point, though, it's interesting, Terry, you're saying it's about all these things that are alleged to have happened in Victoria. Barely a question to Daniel Andrews, and this is all happening under his watch. Yeah. And I think at one time he was the gaming minister. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think he was. Terry McCrann, Adam Creighton, thank you as always.
Peter.